I have been told that men have a tendency to get a bit softer as we age. When we're in our teens and 20s, we are filled with raging testosterone, or as the mainstream media likes to call it, toxic masculinity. When we get to our 30s, 40s, maybe even our 50s, some of us can be very blunt with our words. We are brutally honest. I had someone email me the other day. They were being very complimentary of the channel, but he said something in the email that caught my attention. For some reason, my delivery can sometimes get misconstrued as me being angry. He told me in the email that as I get older, as I age, my approach is going to become softer. Now, I hope that's not the case. I kind of like going after the deacons at Woke United Methodist with an aggressive approach, but I have been told that as I get older, that aggressive approach will become a bit softer. Obviously, I can't speak right now from experience because I haven't even reached my 40s yet. But there are plenty of examples of grizzly bears becoming teddy bears as they age. Throughout the first 3 decades of his career, Howard Stern, he was an unapologetic asshole. He would verbally destroy his enemies. He was constantly going after doofus celebrities. Made for very entertaining radio, arguably the best radio show in the history of the industry. The Howard Stern of the 1990s and 2000s, he would not recognize the new and improved Howie that a few dozen people are still listening to today. Howard Stern had this persona where he was not afraid of anything. Howie, he's afraid of the flu. Howard Stern did not give one single fuck about your feelings. Howie is in touch with his feminine side. Men also have a tendency to hold on to their careers for too long. Most men, we got to be doing something. If we stop moving, we'll be joining the donut diva Brian Stelter in the woke cemetery. Both of my parents are retired. My mom, she is perfectly content sitting on her computer playing solitaire or scouring Facebook looking for gossip, looking at other people's kids that she pretends to know because they're pretend friends on Facebook. At 72 years old, Dad still wakes up early every morning and he gets the hell out of the house. He doesn't give a shit about social media. The only socialization he cares about is introducing his shovel to the dirt. Successful men, they have a hard time walking away from their careers. 5 years ago, if you asked me who was on the Mount Rushmore of NBA head coaches, well, KC, you're not allowed to use that term. Father Jalen Rose, lead pastor at Woke United Methodist, banned use of the term Mount Rushmore. Yeah, well, Father Jalen Rose is no longer employed, and even when he was, his opinion was worth about as much as a wet fart on a first date. 5 years ago, if you asked me to name the greatest coaches in the history of the NBA, I would have said Phil Jackson and Gregg Popovich. Now, Phil Jackson remains number 1 on that list, but for reasons unknown, Gregg Popovich, he seems hell-bent on destroying his own legacy. This dude has become so soft, it wouldn't surprise me if Gregg Popovich sings Taylor Swift in the shower and chooses to identify as a Swiffer. Remember a couple of years ago when Gregg Popovich was complaining about Columbus Day? We are allowing our kids to be out of school to celebrate an evil white man. The children, oh, it's all about the children. You know, I used to think that kids had too many days out of school, but with the bullshit they are teaching kids in school today, I would imagine that most parents are relieved when their kids are out of school. It's one less day they had to worry about their kids being indoctrinated. Last night, the Clippers, they were in San Antonio to play the Spurs. Now, for those that don't follow the NBA, the Spurs, the modern Spurs, they are no longer the dominant dynasty that they were for the last couple of decades. Over the last couple of years, the Spurs have been a huge embarrassing failure, led by Captain Doofus Gregg Popovich. Kawhi Leonard spent the first few years of his NBA career playing in San Antonio, helped the Spurs win their last NBA title. Now, this was before the days of load management. This was before Kawhi Leonard treated the NBA regular season like an extended summer vacation. Last night was a rarity in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard actually showed up to work. When a former star player leaves the team that drafted him and returns home playing for the opposing team, it's almost like a tradition in the NBA to boo them every time they touch the ball. It's not malicious, it's not mean-spirited, it's just basketball, part of the game. Fans in San Antonio, they were booing Kawhi Leonard every single time he touched the ball. This triggered feelings of pain and sadness in Gregg Popovich. During the middle of the game, Gregg Popovich, he just decides to address the home crowd. Now, I'm going to black out the visual for copyright reasons. Hopefully, this will make it through the check system, but watch it for yourself.
Excuse me for a second. We stop all the booing, let these guys play. It's got no class. It's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
Did Gregg Popovich forget where he was? This was not church. He wasn't worshiping on Sunday morning at Woke United Methodist. Fans in San Antonio, they weren't booing during prayer to the Woke Oak Tree. They weren't interrupting a wedding ceremony where Bill was entering into holy matrimony with his new husband, Jill. These were fans at an NBA game booing an opposing player. Gregg Popovich, he has coached thousands of games in the NBA. He has seen the same thing happen hundreds of times, and all of a sudden, he's getting triggered by his hometown fans booing Kawhi Leonard? Just in case the clip didn't make it through, Gregg Popovich, he interrupts the game during the middle of Kawhi Leonard shooting free throws. He demanded that fans in San Antonio stop booing, and then he proceeded to call them classless. You know, if I was a fan of the San Antonio Spurs, if I was a season ticket holder, I wouldn't go to another game this season. How many times have I told you guys that the NBA seems to be at war with their own fan base? What the hell are they doing? We have an NBA head coach, and this isn't just any head coach. This isn't some unknown bum coaching the Charlotte Hornets. When it comes to coaching, Gregg Popovich is the face of the NBA, and this dude has the audacity to lecture his own fan base about booing an opposing player. I guarantee you, not one person paid for a ticket last night to listen to some boring lecture from Gregg Popovich. And credit should be given to the fans in San Antonio. Thankfully, they refused to listen to this wannabe John Biden. After the Gregor grabbed the microphone and displayed his woke mating call, the booing of Kawhi Leonard, it got exponentially worse. Last year, the Spurs ranked near the bottom of the league in attendance. This once great franchise has become the NBA's version of a dump. Now, attendance has improved so far this season because they drafted Victor Wembanyama, but it is about to get worse. The Spurs are one of the worst teams in the league. My Pelicans have won 3 games in the past 5 or 6 days. Spurs, they've won 3 games the entire season. Now, you would think that Gregg Popovich would be encouraging fans to buy tickets to this dump. Instead, he wants to lecture them about booing an opposing player. Now, to his credit, Kawhi Leonard, he handled this with class. After the game, Kawhi Leonard was asked by the media about the booing. "Kawhi, are you okay? I know this must have hurt your feelings. I know this was painful." Oh! Unlike Gregg Popovich, Kawhi Leonard still maintains his toxic masculinity. He told the media that he understands that he is going to be booed in San Antonio. It's part of the game. When he is in town, people are respectful and they give him love. When he's on the floor, the fans are supposed to boo him. Is that so hard to understand? Fans in San Antonio, they are not booing Kawhi Leonard, the person. They are booing Kawhi Leonard, the opposing player. This is not personal. And look, Gregg Popovich, he knows this. He knows it's not personal. I don't know what his intentions were, but to me, this seemed like a desperate cry for attention. After the game, Gregg Popovich, he tried to play dumb. He tried to act like he was doing this for the betterment of his team. You know, if you watch basketball, you know not to poke the bear. I didn't want the booing to cause Kawhi Leonard to respond and dominate us. Yeah, sure, Gregor. You're just trying to save face because you came to the realization that you looked like an out-of-touch dumbass. Not even your pretend friends in the mainstream media could defend you. Gregg Popovich is 74 years old, but you know, it's not the age that's the problem, it's this diminished mentality. Donald Trump is 77, he's still in touch with reality. John Biden is 80, he thinks reality is the shows that he watches on television. This is not a good look for the NBA. Matter of fact, Last night was an absolutely horrific night for the league. We were treated to Gregg Popovich giving lectures on booing. The officiating throughout the NBA last night, absolutely atrocious. Chris Paul was ejected by Scott Foster for reasons unknown. How in the fuck is Scott Foster still allowed to call NBA games? Wasn't he tight with Tim Donaghy, the same Tim Donaghy that was fixing NBA games for the Mafia? The officiating was horrific last night during the Pels game. Look, I don't understand these female referees and their perceived need to insert themselves into the game. Every time Herb Jones smiled, he was called for a foul. And the dudes aren't much better. The other day, I was telling my girlfriend about how much officiating in the NBA had improved in the last couple of weeks. After the league was humiliated during the first couple of weeks of the season, seemed like they were finally starting to come around. They were finally starting to understand. Seemed like the NBA was finally letting the players play. No one watches these games to see some doofus official blow the whistle like they blow the cucumber. But last night, it seemed like the NBA regressed back to the norm. In a league where it's already been proven that officials fix games, you have zero margin for error. Competent officiating, it should be the number one priority for Adam Silver. Instead, the NBA has the absolute worst officiating in professional sports. But all right, I gotta get out of here. This is gonna be the only video for today. I'll be gone the rest of the day doing the family thing for Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for taking the time today to watch this video. And thank you for taking the time every day to support the channel. I feel blessed to have this audience. You guys have made 2023 a great year here on the channel. Hope you know how much I appreciate it and how much I appreciate you. But give me your thoughts on Gregg Popovich. Also, give me your thoughts on the NBA in general. Does the officiating ruin the games for you? Because it damn sure does for me. It legitimately pisses me off. Let me know how you feel about it. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.